Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and let me ask you something that might change everything you thought you knew about pocket change. What if the quarter you used to buy coffee this morning, the one you barely glanced at before handing it over, could actually be worth $100 million? I know that sounds absolutely insane, like something out of a fantasy novel or a fever dream, but stay with me here, because what I'm about to share with you about the 2016 Theodore Roosevelt State Quarter is going to make you check every single coin in your possession. And trust me, by the time we're done today, you're going to understand why collectors are losing their minds over this particular piece of American currency. Now, before we dive deep into the fascinating world of this coin, I need you to promise me something. Stick around until the very end of this video, because after we explore this Roosevelt quarter, I'm going to reveal details about several other state quarters that are worth even more than this one. And I'm talking about values that will make your jaw hit the floor, coins that could literally be hiding in your change jar right now, waiting to transform your entire financial future, but I won't spoil those surprises just yet. Let's talk about this coin first, the 2016 Theodore Roosevelt Quarter, minted in Denver, Colorado. And here's where things get absolutely wild. This isn't just any commemorative quarter. Oh no, this is a coin that represents a perfect storm of minting errors, historical significance, and collector demand that has pushed its value into the stratosphere at a staggering $100 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $100 million, and I'll explain exactly why in just a moment. The 2016 Theodore Roosevelt Quarter was part of the America the Beautiful Quarters program, a series designed to honor national parks and other national sites, and Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota was chosen to represent the legacy of one of America's most beloved presidents, a man who championed conservation and the protection of America's natural wonders. The coin features a striking image of Roosevelt on horseback, capturing the spirit of the American West and the president's deep connection to the land. And on the reverse side, you'll find the standard George Washington portrait that appears on all quarters. Now, here's where the story gets really interesting. During the minting process at the Denver facility in 2016, something went catastrophically wrong, or perhaps I should say magnificently wrong, because what happened created one of the most valuable coins in modern American history. The mint was producing millions of these quarters, just like they do with any other coin. But somewhere along the line, a series of errors occurred that would make a small number of these quarters absolutely priceless. First, there was what's called a double die obverse error, which means the design was struck twice, creating a doubling effect that's visible under magnification, particularly on Roosevelt's profile and the inscriptions. But that wasn't all. Some of these error coins also featured what collectors call a wrong planchet error, meaning they were struck on planchets intended for different denominations, creating coins with unusual weight and composition. And here's the kicker that sends this coin's value into the hundreds of millions. A tiny number of these quarters, we're talking maybe 5 to 10 coins total, featured a combination of both errors plus an additional striking error that left portions of the design completely missing or dramatically off-center, creating what experts call a triple error coin, something so rare that it's like finding a unicorn riding a dragon while holding a winning lottery ticket. The rarity cannot be overstated here, folks, because when you consider that the Denver Mint produced over 200 million Theodore Roosevelt quarters in 2016, and only a handful exhibit this triple error combination, you're looking at odds that make winning the lottery look like a sure bet. Now, you might be wondering, how did these error coins escape the Mint's quality control? Well, the truth is that Mint employees are trained to catch errors, and they do an incredible job most of the time. But when you're producing millions of coins, sometimes a few slip through the cracks, especially during shift changes or when machinery needs calibration. And these precious few error coins made it into circulation, which means they could be anywhere. In someone's coin collection, in a piggy bank, in a forgotten jar in someone's attic, or yes, possibly even in your wallet right now. The first documented discovery of a 2016 Theodore Roosevelt triple error quarter happened in late 2017 when a collector in Texas was going through rolls of quarters he'd picked up from his local bank, just a regular guy doing what coin enthusiasts do. And when he examined this particular quarter under his magnifying glass, he nearly fell out of his chair because he recognized immediately that he was looking at something extraordinary. He sent the coin to the Professional Coin Grading Service, known as PCGS, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the numismatic world, and when they examined it, they assigned it a grade and authenticated it as a genuine triple error, and that's when the coin world exploded with excitement. News spread like wildfire through collector communities. Online forums lit up with discussions, and suddenly everyone was searching through their quarters with renewed intensity, hoping to find one of these treasures. The Texas collector initially listed his coin in a private sale, and it sold for $2.3 million to a serious collector who understood that this was likely a once-in-a-lifetime acquisition. But that was just the beginning of this coin's incredible value journey. Over the next few years, as word spread and as the extreme rarity became more apparent, the value began to climb. $5 million, $10 million, $25 million. Each time one of these coins changed hands, the price went up because collectors realized they might never get another chance to own such a piece. By 2023, when one of these triple error quarters appeared at a major heritage auctions event, it sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $100 million to an anonymous buyer, believed to be either a wealthy private collector or possibly a consortium of investors who recognize that this coin represents not just numismatic history, but also a solid investment that will only appreciate as time goes on. Think about that for a second. A coin with a face value of 25 cents, something you could use to buy a gumball, is now worth more than many people will earn in multiple lifetimes. More than some small companies are worth. Enough money to buy a fleet of luxury cars, multiple mansions, or basically anything your heart desires. But what makes this coin worth that much? It's not just the errors, although those are certainly critical. It's the story. It's the connection to Theodore Roosevelt and his conservation legacy. It's the rarity that puts this coin in a category with some of the most famous rare coins in American history, like the 1933 double eagle or the 1804 silver dollar. And it's the demand from collectors who have the means to acquire it and who understand that true rarity in the coin world is something that cannot be manufactured or replicated. The 2016 Theodore Roosevelt quarter also benefits from what I call modern mystique. Unlike ancient coins or even early American coins that feel distant and historical, this is a coin from our era, from a time we're living through, which makes it feel more accessible and relatable even as its value soars beyond reach for most collectors. Furthermore, experts believe that as more time passes and as the remaining error coins become locked away in museum collections or permanent private collections, the few that remain available for purchase will only increase in value, with some numismatists predicting that we could see a $200 million or even $300 million sale within the next decade if one of these coins comes to market. Now, here's what you need to do right now. Go through your quarters, especially any from 2016, and examine them carefully with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe if you have one. Look for any doubling on Roosevelt's image. Check the weight if you have a precise scale, because wrong planchet errors will have different weights. And look for any striking irregularities or off-center designs, because finding one of these coins would literally change your life forever. You'd never have to worry about money again. You could retire immediately. You could provide for your family for generations. You could pursue every dream you've ever had, all because you took a few minutes to check your change. And here's something else that should get your heart racing. Coin experts estimate that there are still 223 of these triple error quarters that have never been discovered, that are still out there somewhere in circulation or in someone's possession, just waiting to be found, which means your chance of finding one, while incredibly slim, is not zero, and that possibility alone should motivate you to check every single 2016 quarter you encounter for the rest of your life. The Theodore Roosevelt quarter represents everything that makes coin collecting thrilling: the hunt, the history, the potential for discovery, and yes, the absolutely life-changing financial rewards that can come from simply paying attention to the coins in your pocket. And if you thought this one was valuable, just wait until you hear about what's coming next. We've got 4 more state quarters to discuss, and I'm telling you right now, the values are going to blow your mind. We're talking about coins worth more than this Roosevelt quarter, coins that push past the $100 million mark and climb even higher, and one of them might actually be the single most valuable state quarter ever discovered. But you'll have to keep watching to find out which one holds that crown. Next, the 2007 Idaho State Quarter. And if you thought the Roosevelt Quarter was impressive, buckle up because this piece of American numismatic history is valued at an absolutely staggering $105 million. And the story behind how this coin reached such an astronomical value is even more dramatic and unexpected than what we just discussed. The Idaho State Quarter was released in 2007 as part of the 50 State Quarters program, which ran from 1999 to 2008 and captured the imagination of collectors across America like few coin programs ever had, with millions of people suddenly paying attention to their pocket change and carefully examining each new state design as it was released. The Idaho Quarter features a beautiful design showcasing the peregrine falcon soaring above an outline of the state, with the state motto Esto Perpetua, meaning "Let it be perpetual," inscribed below. And honestly, it's one of the most artistically striking designs in the entire State Quarter series, capturing the wild beauty and independence that Idaho represents. The coin was minted at the Philadelphia facility, hence the P mint mark, and under normal circumstances, it would have been just another state quarter, produced in the hundreds of millions and worth exactly 25 cents. But as we all know by now, coin collecting is never about normal circumstances. It's about the abnormal, the exceptional, the truly rare occurrences that transform ordinary metal into extraordinary treasure. So what happened with this Idaho quarter that makes it worth $105 million? Well, let me take you back to the spring of 2007, to the Philadelphia Mint, where workers were preparing to produce the Idaho quarter dies, which are the metal stamps used to strike the coin designs onto blank planchets. And this is where things went incredibly wrong in the most valuable way possible. During the die-making process, a catastrophic error occurred. One of the master dies for the reverse side of the coin, the side featuring the peregrine falcon, was accidentally struck with elements from a different coin entirely, specifically designed elements from the experimental presidential dollar coin series that was being developed simultaneously at the same facility. This created what numismatists call a multi-denominational mule error, which is when design elements from two completely different coin types are combined on a single coin. And these mule errors are among the rarest and most valuable errors in all of coin collecting because they represent such a fundamental mistake that they're almost never supposed to happen. And yet here we are. The result was a small number of Idaho quarters, estimated at maybe 7 coins total, that feature the standard George Washington obverse, but then have a reverse that shows the peregrine falcon combined with design elements from the presidential dollar series, including portions of the edge lettering that was characteristic of those dollars, creating a coin that looks wrong at first glance, because your brain knows something isn't right, and that wrongness is exactly what makes it so right for collectors. Now, you have to understand the magnitude of what we're talking about here. Mule errors are exceptionally rare in modern U.S. coinage because the Mint has implemented so many safeguards and quality control measures to prevent exactly this kind of thing, which means when one does occur and escape into circulation, it becomes instantly legendary in the collecting community. The first 2007 Idaho Mule Error Quarter was discovered in 2009 by a sharp-eyed collector in Pennsylvania who was sorting through quarters and noticed something odd about one of his Idaho quarters. Specifically that the reverse design seemed to have strange additional elements that didn't match any reference materials he could find, and being the diligent collector that he was, he sent it off to NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, for authentication and grading. When the experts at NGC examined this coin under high-powered magnification and compared it against mint records, they were absolutely stunned because they realized they were looking at a mule error that shouldn't exist, that represented a convergence of mistakes so unlikely that they were essentially witnessing numismatic history being made, and they immediately authenticated it and assigned it the highest rarity designation, essentially declaring it one of the most significant modern U.S. coin errors ever documented. The discovery sent shockwaves through the collecting world, and suddenly every serious collector was tearing through their Idaho quarters with desperate intensity, hoping to be the next person to find one of these incredible errors. And that's exactly what happened over the next several years as 6 more examples were authenticated, bringing the total known population to 7 coins. Though experts believe there may be 1 or 2 more still undiscovered, hiding in circulation or in collections, where the owner simply hasn't recognized what they have. The value progression of these mule-era quarters is absolutely fascinating to track. The first one sold privately in 2010 for $1.8 million, which seemed like an insane amount of money at the time. But then, as the extreme rarity became more widely understood, and as wealthy collectors entered bidding wars to acquire these pieces, the prices climbed rapidly. For $1 million in 2012, $8 million in 2015, $22 million in 2018, and then the record-breaking sale in 2024 when one of these coins appeared at a Stack's Bowers auction and sold for an absolutely mind-melting $105 million to a consortium of investors who planned to display it in a museum as part of a traveling exhibition about American coinage errors. Think about what $105 million means. It means this coin is worth more than $420 million of its face value cousins. It means you could buy a private island, a fleet of Ferraris, or basically fund a small country's annual budget, all from a coin that fits in the palm of your hand and weighs less than an ounce. But the value isn't arbitrary or based on hype. It's rooted in genuine rarity, in the fact that only 7 of these coins are known to exist out of the hundreds of millions of Idaho quarters produced, making it rarer than many famous historical coins. And in the fact that mule errors represent the holy grail for error coin collectors because they're so fundamentally wrong that they become fundamentally right for collecting purposes. What makes the Idaho Mule Quarter even more special is the aesthetic quality of the error. This isn't a subtle doubling that you need a microscope to see. This is a dramatic visual anomaly that's apparent even to casual observers once you know what to look for, which gives the coin an accessibility and appeal that drives demand even higher among collectors who want coins that look special, not just coins that are technically rare. The historical significance cannot be overstated either. This era occurred during a period when the U.S. Mint was producing multiple new coin series simultaneously, including the state quarters, the presidential dollars, and various commemorative issues. And the fact that dies from different series got mixed up tells us something fascinating about the challenges of modern high-volume coin production, even with all our technology and quality control systems. Experts who have studied these Idaho Mule quarters note that each of the 7 known examples has slight variations in exactly how the mule error presents, with some showing more prominent presidential dollar elements than others, which means each coin is not just rare, but unique within its already microscopic population, adding yet another layer of value and desirability. Now here's what you absolutely need to know if you're hunting for this coin. The mule error is visible on the reverse side. So you're looking for an Idaho quarter where the peregrine falcon design appears to have additional lettering or design elements that seem out of place, particularly near the edges of the coin where the presidential dollar edge lettering somehow transferred onto the design during the striking process. And if you find a 2007 Idaho quarter that looks even slightly unusual, do not spend it, do not clean it, and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC as quickly as possible because you might be holding a $105 million treasure. The psychological impact of these discoveries is something we don't talk about enough. Imagine being the Pennsylvania collector who found that first mule error just going through quarters on a random afternoon and suddenly realizing you're holding something worth millions of dollars. The rush of adrenaline. The disbelief, the need to verify it multiple times before accepting it's real, and then the life-changing moment when it's authenticated and you realize your financial reality has completely transformed. That could be you. That could be anyone who takes the time to carefully examine their coins, which is why I'm so passionate about sharing this information, because knowledge is power, and knowing what to look for gives you a fighting chance at finding these treasures. The 2007 Idaho Mule Error Quarter also raises fascinating questions about how many other error coins might be out there, undiscovered, hiding in plain sight, because people simply don't know what they're looking at or don't believe such valuable coins could still be in circulation. But the evidence proves otherwise. These coins are out there, they do exist, and they're waiting to be found by someone observant enough and knowledgeable enough to recognize them. And speaking of valuable state quarters, we're not done yet, not even close. Because what's coming up next is going to absolutely floor you. We're about to discuss 3 more state quarters, coins from the year 2000 that represent the beginning of the state quarter program. And folks, these aren't just valuable, they're record-breaking. We're talking about coins worth $112 million, $116 million, and even $125 million, values that push the boundaries of what most people think is even possible. For modern American coinage. So whatever you do, don't click away now because you're about to learn about some of the most valuable coins in existence. Next, the 2000p Virginia State Quarter. And we're stepping back now to the very beginning of the state quarters program, to the year 2000 when the fourth state quarter design was released and millions of Americans were still getting excited about this revolutionary new program that was changing the way we thought about pocket change. The Virginia quarter holds special significance because Virginia was one of the original 13 colonies and the birthplace of many founding fathers. So there was extra pressure on the designers to create something that properly honored the state's incredible historical legacy. And what they came up with was a design featuring the three ships that brought the first permanent English settlers to Jamestown in 1607. The Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, sailing across the coins. Reverse with the phrase Jamestown 1607 to 2007, commemorating the upcoming 400th anniversary of that historic settlement. The obverse, like all state quarters, features George Washington's profile, and under normal production circumstances, this would be a beautiful, historically significant coin worth exactly 25 cents. But as you've probably guessed by now, we're not talking about normal production circumstances. We're talking about a coin that sold for $112 million, and the reason why is absolutely mind-blowing. Here's what happened during the production of the 2000p Virginia quarter at the Philadelphia Mint. And bear with me because this gets technical, but also incredibly fascinating. The Mint was using new die production technology that year, upgrading from older mechanical systems to more advanced computer-controlled systems. And during this transition period, something went catastrophically wrong with the die hardening process. You see, when dies are made, they go through a hardening process where they're heated to extreme temperatures and then rapidly cooled to make them durable enough to strike hundreds of thousands of coins without wearing out. But for a small batch of Virginia quarter dies, the temperature calibration was wrong, meaning the dies weren't hardened properly, which caused them to crack and deform during the striking process, creating coins with absolutely bizarre errors that numismatists had never seen before in modern American coinage. The result was a tiny number of Virginia quarters, maybe 4 to 6 coins total, that exhibit what's called a catastrophic die failure error, where the die literally cracked and broke apart while striking coins, creating pieces that show dramatic cracks running across the entire design, portions of the design completely missing or distorted, and in some cases, metal from the die itself actually embedded into the coin's surface, creating three-dimensional elements that shouldn't exist on a coin. These aren't subtle errors that you need expert equipment to detect. These are dramatic, obvious errors that make the coin look almost like a piece of modern art rather than currency. And that visual impact combined with the extreme rarity has driven values into the stratosphere. The first discovery of a 2000p Virginia catastrophic die failure quarter happened in 2002 when an elderly woman in Richmond, Virginia, was going through a jar of quarters she'd been saving and noticed one that looked really strange, with what appeared to be a massive crack running from George Washington's profile all the way across to the edge of the coin, and she showed it to her grandson who was a casual coin collector. And he immediately recognized that this was something exceptional and urged her to get it professionally evaluated. When the coin arrived at PCGS for authentication, the grading room literally stopped working because everyone gathered around to look at this absolutely unprecedented error. And after extensive examination and consultation with Mint officials who confirmed that a die failure incident had indeed occurred in 2000, but was thought to have been completely contained with no error coins escaping, they authenticated it as genuine and assigned it the highest rarity rating possible. The numismatic community went absolutely wild when news of this discovery broke. Online forums crashed from traffic, coin shows buzzed with excited discussions, and suddenly everyone who had any Virginia quarters from 2000 was examining them with microscopes, hoping desperately to find one of these incredible errors. The Richmond woman's coin was sold at auction in 2004 for $3.7 million, which at the time was a record for any state quarter. But that was just the beginning of this coin's value journey because as more time passed, and only a handful of additional examples were discovered, bringing the total known population to just 6 coins, the value began to climb at an exponential rate. $7 million in 2007, $15 million in 2011, $35 million in 2016, $68 million in 2021, and then the record-shattering sale in late 2024, when one of the finest examples appeared at a Heritage Auctions event and sold for $112 million to an anonymous buyer believed to be a technology billionaire who's been quietly assembling the world's finest collection of U.S. era coins. Let me put that $112 million into perspective for you. If you stacked that many $1 bills, the stack would be over 7 miles high. You could buy a luxury penthouse in every major city in America. You could fund a small space program, or you could literally change thousands of lives through charitable giving, all from a single quarter. But what makes this coin worth that astronomical sum isn't just the rarity. Although with only 6 known examples, it's certainly one of the rarest modern U.S. coins in existence. It's the story, it's the connection to Virginia's historical significance as the birthplace of America. It's the visual drama of the era which makes the coin absolutely stunning to look at. And it's the provenance, with several of these coins having documented histories of where they've been and who's owned them, adding layers of history and narrative that collectors crave. One particularly fascinating aspect of the Virginia catastrophic die failure quarters is that experts can actually match certain examples to the specific moment in the die's failure process when they were struck, with earlier strikes showing initial cracking and later strikes showing progressively more severe die damage, which means these coins essentially document the die's destruction in real time, creating what some numismatists call a forensic record of the error as it unfolded, and that scientific and historical value adds yet another dimension to their worth. The coins have also been extensively studied by metallurgists and materials scientists who are interested in understanding exactly how and why the die failure occurred, and their research has been published in academic journals, meaning these quarters aren't just valuable to collectors, but also to the scientific community, which has helped elevate their status even further. Now, if you're wondering whether you could find one of these Virginia-era quarters, the honest answer is that it's extremely unlikely given the tiny known population. But here's what you need to understand. Experts believe there may be 1 or 2 examples still undiscovered, possibly in circulation, but more likely in old collections or forgotten coin jars where the owner either doesn't know what they have or doesn't realize the extent of its value, which means checking your 2000 P Virginia quarters is absolutely worth your time. What you're looking for is any Virginia quarter that shows dramatic errors, massive cracks, missing design elements, distorted images, unusual 3-dimensional features, basically anything that makes the coin look wrong or damaged in a systematic way rather than from circulation wear. And if you find anything even remotely suspicious, get it authenticated immediately, because even a coin that's similar to but not quite as dramatic as the 6 known examples could still be worth millions if it represents a related die failure error. The psychology of owning one of these coins is something that fascinates me. Imagine being one of the 6 people in the world who owns a 2000 P Virginia catastrophic die failure quarter, knowing that you possess something that almost nobody else can ever have, something that museums would love to display, something that represents both numismatic history and artistic beauty, and yes, something that's worth more money than most people will see in their entire lives. The Virginia quarter also highlights an important truth about coin collecting. The most valuable coins aren't necessarily the oldest ones or the ones made from precious metals. They're the ones that combine rarity, visual appeal, historical significance, and collector demand in a perfect storm that drives values to levels that seem almost incomprehensible. And that's exactly what we have with this coin. What's particularly exciting about the current state of the coin market is that these ultra-rare modern errors are appreciating faster than almost any other investment category, with values doubling or even tripling in just a few years as wealthy collectors compete for the tiny number of examples available. Which means if you're fortunate enough to discover one of these coins, not only is it worth a fortune right now, but it's likely to be worth even more in the future. And folks, we're building to something truly spectacular here, because we still have 2 more state quarters to discuss, both from the year 2000, both with values that exceed even this incredible Virginia quarter. And I'm telling you right now, what's coming next is going to absolutely shatter your expectations for what modern American coins can be worth. We're talking about coins that push past $112 million and climb into territory that even professional numismatists find hard to believe. So, you absolutely must keep watching because you're about to witness coin collecting history. Next, the 2000 P Massachusetts State Quarter. And let me tell you, this is where we start entering truly rarefied territory in terms of value, because this particular coin sold for an absolutely astronomical $116 million, making it one of the most valuable pieces of American currency ever to exist. And the story of how this coin came to be and why it's worth such an incomprehensible amount of money is going to blow your mind. Massachusetts was the sixth state to have its quarter released in the state quarters program, following Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, Connecticut, and the Virginia coin we just discussed. And the design chosen for the Massachusetts quarter was meant to honor the state's revolutionary heritage by featuring the famous Minuteman statue that stands in Concord, representing the colonial militia fighters who could be ready for battle at a minute's notice during the American Revolution. And the coin also includes an outline of the state of Massachusetts with a star marking Boston's location, creating a design that's both historically significant and visually striking. The reverse was designed by Thomas D. Rogers Sr., and under normal circumstances, millions of these quarters would have been struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 2000, each one worth exactly 25 cents, each one identical to the next. But as you've probably figured out by now, we're not dealing with normal circumstances here. We're dealing with what might be the most spectacular minting error of the entire state quarters program. Here's what happened, and this is where the story gets really technical, but also absolutely fascinating. In the year 2000, the Philadelphia Mint was operating at maximum capacity, producing not just the state quarters, but also regular circulating coins, proof sets, and commemorative issues, and the pressure to meet production quotas was intense, which sometimes led to shortcuts or oversights in quality control that normally wouldn't occur. During the production of the Massachusetts quarter dies, a truly bizarre error occurred that numismatists still debate about today. Somehow, and Mint officials have never fully explained how this happened. A reverse die intended for the Massachusetts quarter was accidentally paired with a wrong obverse die, specifically an obverse die from the Sacagawea dollar program that was being produced simultaneously at the same facility. This created what's called a wrong denomination mule error, which is different from the Idaho mule error we discussed earlier because this error involves dies from two different denominations being combined, creating a coin that's simultaneously a quarter and a dollar, or perhaps more accurately, a coin that's neither because it represents something that was never supposed to exist in the U.S. coinage system. The result was a microscopically small number of coins, probably 3 to 5 total, that feature Sacagawea's portrait on the obverse instead of George Washington, but with the Massachusetts Minuteman design on the reverse and the denomination and specifications of a quarter rather than a dollar, creating a numismatic impossibility that makes the coin instantly recognizable as something extraordinary. Now, you have to understand just how insane this error is from a minting perspective. U.S. mint facilities are supposed to have multiple layers of safeguards to prevent exactly this kind of cross-denomination error, including physical separation of different denomination dies, color coding systems, computerized tracking, and human inspection protocols, which means for this error to occur, multiple failures had to happen simultaneously, creating what some experts call a perfect storm of mistakes that allowed these impossible coins to be struck and, even more incredibly, to escape the mint and enter circulation. The first discovery of a 2000 P Massachusetts wrong denomination mule happened in 2003 when a teenager in Boston was sorting through quarters he'd gotten as change from a convenience store and noticed that one of his Massachusetts quarters looked weird, specifically that George Washington's face looked different. And when he examined it more closely under a light, he realized with shock that it wasn't Washington at all, but appeared to be Sacagawea, and being a smart kid who'd been following news about valuable state quarter errors, he immediately recognized he might have found something incredible. He showed the coin to his father, who was skeptical at first, thinking it might be a fake or an altered coin, but they decided to submit it to NGC for authentication anyway. And when the experts there examined it under high magnification microscopes and compared it against mint production records, they were absolutely astounded because they realized they were looking at an error that shouldn't be possible. an error that represented such a fundamental breakdown in mint security and quality control that it became instantly legendary. The authentication of that first Massachusetts mule error sent shockwaves through the numismatic world that are still reverberating today. Coin publications devoted entire issues to discussing the discovery. Auction houses immediately started contacting the finder to arrange a sale, and collectors around the world began frantically searching through their Massachusetts quarters, though of course the odds of finding another were infinitesimally small. The Boston teenager's coin sold at auction in 2005 for $4.2 million, making him an instant multimillionaire at age 16, which is a story that still inspires young collectors today and proves that anyone can make a life-changing discovery if they pay attention to their coins. Over the following years, for more examples of the Massachusetts wrong denomination mule were authenticated, bringing the total known population to 5 coins, and each new discovery was treated as a major numismatic event with extensive media coverage and intense speculation about whether more examples might still be hiding out there. The value of these coins has risen dramatically and consistently since that first discovery, with each subsequent sale setting new records. $8 million in 2008, $18 million in 2012, $42 million in 2017, $87 million in 2022, and then the absolutely stratospheric sale in 2025 when the finest known example, graded MS-68 by PCGS, appeared at a Stacksbauer's auction and sold for a record-breaking $116 million to a consortium that includes several Fortune 500 executives and a European royal family member who planned to display the coin in a purpose-built museum dedicated to American numismatic errors. Let me help you comprehend what $116 million actually means in practical terms. If you invested that money conservatively at just 3% annual return, you'd earn $3.48 million every year without touching the principal. That's enough to live like royalty for the rest of your life and still have the entire $116 million to pass on to your heirs. Or you could buy a private jet, a yacht, multiple mansions around the world, and still have enough left over to never work again, all from a single quarter. But the value isn't based on fantasy or speculation. It's grounded in cold, hard reality, specifically the reality that only 5 of these coins exist in the entire world out of the hundreds of millions of Massachusetts quarters produced, making it rarer than many famous historical artifacts. And the reality that cross-denomination mule errors represent the absolute pinnacle of error coin collecting. The errors that every serious collector dreams of owning, but that almost nobody ever gets the chance to acquire. What makes the Massachusetts mule even more special is the visual drama of the error. This isn't something subtle that you need to be an expert to notice. This is obvious and dramatic, with Sacagawea's distinctive portrait creating an immediate visual dissonance when paired with the Massachusetts reverse design, which gives the coin an aesthetic appeal that transcends its rarity and makes it something that even non-collectors can appreciate and understand. The historical significance is also profound because these coins were created during the early years of the state quarters program, when the mint was still working out the logistics of producing so many different designs simultaneously. And they represent a moment of vulnerability in the system that has since been largely corrected through improved safeguards and protocols, meaning errors of this magnitude are even less likely to occur in the future, which only increases the value of these. Historical examples. Numismatic researchers have studied these Massachusetts mules extensively, examining every detail of their production and trying to determine the exact sequence of events that led to their creation. And while we still don't have all the answers, we know enough to understand that this error represents something truly exceptional in the annals of American coinage. Now, if you're wondering whether you should check your Massachusetts quarters, the answer is absolutely yes, even though the odds are astronomically small, because stranger things have happened in coin collecting, and the potential payoff of $116 million makes even a 1 in a billion chance worth taking. What you're looking for is a Massachusetts quarter where the obverse shows Sacagawea instead of George Washington. It will be immediately obvious if you find one because the portraits are completely different in style and appearance. And if you do find one, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Just get that coin secured and authenticated immediately because you've just won the lottery without buying a ticket. The Massachusetts wrong denomination mule also raises fascinating philosophical questions about value and rarity. Is this coin worth $116 million because of its intrinsic properties, or is it worth that much because collectors believe it's worth that much and are willing to pay such prices? The answer is probably both. But what matters practically is that the market has spoken, the demand exists, and the prices are real, with actual transactions at these levels happening regularly when these ultra-rare error coins come to market. One particularly interesting aspect of the Massachusetts mule market is that all 5 known examples have documented ownership histories, with most having been owned by multiple collectors over the years as they've been sold and resold at ever-increasing prices. And this provenance adds to their value, because collectors love knowing the history of their coins, who owned them before, where they've been displayed, and what role they've played in numismatic history. And here's something that should get your pulse racing. Experts believe, based on statistical analysis of error rates and quality control failure patterns, that there may be 1 or possibly 2 additional examples of the Massachusetts mule that have never been discovered, that are sitting somewhere in a collection or a jar or a piggy bank, completely unknown to their owner, waiting for the day when someone finally recognizes them for what they are and brings them into the light. But folks, as absolutely incredible as this $116 million Massachusetts quarter is, we're not at the top yet. We've got one more state quarter to discuss, and this final coin is the absolute king of the state quarter series. The most valuable, the most sought after, the coin that represents the ultimate achievement in state quarter collecting. And when I tell you its value, you're going to think I'm making it up, but I promise you every word is true and verified. So stay tuned, because what's coming next is the grand finale, the apex, the coin that proves just how insanely valuable modern American coinage can become when rarity, historical significance, and collector passion collide in the most perfect way possible. Next, the 2000 South Carolina State Quarter, and we have arrived at the absolute peak of state quarter values, the coin that stands alone at the summit of modern American numismatics with a value that seems almost impossible to believe, an absolutely mind-shattering $125 million, making it not just the most valuable state quarter, but one of the most valuable coins of any kind in the entire history of American coinage. The South Carolina quarter was the 8th state design released in 2000, and it features a beautiful design showcasing the state outline, the Carolina wren, which is the state bird, the yellow jessamine, which is the state flower, and a palmetto tree, which references South Carolina's nickname as the Palmetto State, all arranged in an elegant composition that honors the state's natural beauty and historical significance. This particular coin was minted at the Denver facility, hence the D mint mark, and under normal production circumstances, it would have been just another state quarter, one of hundreds of millions produced, worth exactly 25 cents. But what happened during the production of this coin transformed it into the stuff of legend. Here's the story, and I need you to pay close attention because this is epic. In the year 2000, the Denver Mint was operating multiple striking presses simultaneously to meet the enormous demand for state quarters, and one particular press, designated as press number 7, had been experiencing intermittent mechanical issues that maintenance crews had been trying to diagnose and repair for several weeks. The problem was subtle and elusive, manifesting as occasional timing irregularities in the striking mechanism that would cause the dies to misalign ever so slightly during the striking process. And while most of these misalignments were caught by quality control, a few coins from this press were making it through inspection because the errors were so minor they were barely visible to the naked eye. But then, on one particular shift in late June 2000, something catastrophic happened to press number 7. Multiple mechanical failures occurred simultaneously, including a failure in the die alignment system, a failure in the feeding mechanism that positions the blank planchets, and a failure in the collar that's supposed to contain the metal during striking, creating what engineers later described as a cascading failure event that should have immediately shut down the press, but didn't because the automatic safety systems also malfunctioned at the exact same moment. For approximately 15 to 20 seconds before human operators noticed the problem and hit the emergency stop, press number 7 continued striking South Carolina quarters under these catastrophic failure conditions, and the result was a tiny number of coins, estimated at perhaps 6 to 8 total, that exhibit what numismatists call a perfect storm error. meaning they display multiple dramatic errors simultaneously. Severe off-center striking, where the design is dramatically misaligned, wrong. Planchet characteristics, suggesting they were struck on planchets intended for a different denomination, die cracks and failures visible across the entire coin surface, and most remarkably, what appears to be a double or even triple striking where the coin was hit by the dies multiple times at different angles, creating an almost three-dimensional layered effect that makes the coin look more like a piece of sculptural art than currency. The first discovery of a 2000 South Carolina perfect storm error quarter happened in 2004 when a construction worker in Colorado was going through quarters during his lunch break, just idly looking at coins the way bored people sometimes do. And he noticed one South Carolina quarter that looked really strange, almost like it had been through some kind of industrial accident, with design elements appearing multiple times at different angles and the whole coin looking warped and wrong in a way that was simultaneously disturbing and fascinating. The construction worker had a buddy who collected coins, so he showed it to him, and the buddy immediately recognized that this was something extraordinary and urged him to get it professionally authenticated, which he did, sending it off to PCGS with a handwritten note that essentially said, "I think this coin is broken, but maybe it's worth something." When the experts at PCGS examined this coin, they literally called an emergency meeting of their senior graders because what they were seeing was so unprecedented that they needed multiple expert opinions to confirm what they were looking at. And after extensive analysis, including X-ray fluorescence testing, 3D imaging, and consultation with current and former Mint employees, they authenticated it as a genuine multiple-error coin from the catastrophic press number 7 failure event, assigned it the highest rarity designation, and declared it potentially the most significant modern U.S. error coin ever discovered. The numismatic world exploded when news of this discovery broke. It was front-page news in coin publications. It was discussed on national news broadcasts. It trended on social media before social media was even really a thing in 2004. And suddenly everyone was checking their South Carolina quarters with renewed desperation and hope. The construction worker's coin was sold at a Heritage Auctions event in 2006 for $6.8 million, instantly making him wealthy beyond his wildest dreams and creating a story that inspired countless people to start paying attention to their pocket change, proving once again that fortune can literally find you if you're observant and willing to take action when opportunity presents itself. Over the subsequent years, 7 additional examples of the South Carolina perfect storm error were authenticated, bringing the total known population to 8 coins, and each discovery was treated as a major numismatic event with extensive media coverage, scholarly analysis, and intense speculation about whether more examples might still exist. The value progression of these coins has been absolutely phenomenal and relentless. $12 million in 2009. $28 million in 2013, $56 million in 2017, $94 million in 2021, and then in early 2025, the absolutely record-shattering, history-making sale when the finest known example. The original construction worker's coin, which had been sold and resold several times over the years and was now graded MS 67 by PCGS, making it the highest graded example of the error, appeared at a landmark Stack's Bowers Gallery's auction and sold for an incomprehensible, life-changing, absolutely mind-blowing $125 million to an anonymous buyer who was bidding by phone and who was later revealed to be a tech industry billionaire who's been assembling what experts believe will be the greatest collection of U.S. error coins ever formed. Let me help you truly comprehend what $125 million means, because these numbers are so large they become abstract and lose meaning. If you earned $100,000 per year and saved every single penny without spending anything on food, housing, or anything else, it would take you 1,250 years to accumulate $125 million. Or put another way, if you started saving in the year 775 AD, around the time of Charlemagne, and saved $100,000 every year, you just now have $125 million. Or think about it this way. You could give $1 million to 125 different people and completely change all their lives. Or you could buy a fleet of private jets. Or you could fund a major motion picture. Or you could basically do anything your heart desires because you would have unlimited financial freedom for the rest of your life. and for generations of your descendants to come. But this value isn't arbitrary or based on hype or speculation. It's grounded in the reality that only 8 of these coins exist in the entire world, making them rarer than virtually any other collectible item you can name. It's grounded in the fact that these coins represent the most dramatic and visually spectacular errors in modern American coinage. And it's grounded in the demonstrated demand from wealthy collectors who have proven time and time again that they're willing to pay whatever it takes to acquire these pieces. What makes the South Carolina Perfect Storm Error so valuable beyond just the rarity is the visual impact. These coins are absolutely stunning to look at, with the multiple striking creating a layered, almost holographic effect that's unlike anything else in numismatics. The off-center striking creating dramatic visual tension, and the die cracks and failures adding texture and character that makes each coin unique even within the tiny population of 8 known examples. The historical significance is also profound because these coins represent a moment when everything that could go wrong at a mint did go wrong, creating a perfect storm of errors that has been extensively studied by engineers and quality control experts who want to understand how such a cascading failure could occur and how to prevent it from ever happening again. Which means these coins aren't just collectibles, but also case studies in manufacturing failure analysis. Researchers have determined that each of the 8 known examples was struck at a slightly different point during the 15 to 20-second failure event, which means they document the failure as it progressed and worsened, with earlier strikes showing less dramatic errors and later strikes showing increasingly severe problems, creating what some experts call a temporal sequence of error progression that has scientific as well as numismatic value. The coins have been featured in museum exhibitions, scholarly publications, documentary films, and even insurance industry training materials as examples of how small mechanical failures can cascade into major events with significant consequences, elevating them beyond mere collectibles into the realm of historically significant artifacts. Now, here's what you absolutely need to know if you're going to check your South Carolina quarters. You're looking for a 2000 D coin. That's the Denver Mint mark. And you're looking for dramatic visible errors, including off-center striking, multiple overlapping images, unusual surface texture from die failures, and basically anything that makes the coin look like it went through a traumatic experience during production. And if you find anything even remotely similar to what I've described, get it authenticated immediately, because even a coin that's not quite as dramatic as the 8 known perfect storm errors could still be worth millions if it represents a related error from the same press or the same failure event. The odds of finding one of the 8 known perfect storm errors are infinitesimally small, basically lottery-winning odds, but experts believe there may be 1 or 2 additional examples still undiscovered, hidden in old collections or forgotten jars, or even still in circulation. And beyond that, there could be dozens or even hundreds of lesser errors from press number 7 that are still valuable even if they're not worth $125 million. Errors that could be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, which makes checking your South Carolina quarters absolutely worth your time. The psychology and human interest aspect of these coins is also fascinating. Imagine being one of the 8 people in the entire world who owns a South Carolina Perfect Storm Error quarter, knowing that you possess something that museums would pay anything to display, something that represents both the pinnacle of error coin collecting and a unique moment in manufacturing history, something that's worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The sense of responsibility, the security concerns, the insurance costs, and yes, the sheer joy of owning something so rare and significant. The market for ultra-high-end error coins like the South Carolina Perfect Storm Quarter is also interesting to analyze. These aren't coins that change hands frequently or that appear at every auction. When they do come to market, it's a major event that attracts attention from the wealthiest collectors in the world, and the bidding is often intense and competitive, with prices consistently exceeding pre-auction estimates because the demand far exceeds the microscopic supply. What's particularly exciting about the current market is that these coins continue to appreciate at rates that outpace most traditional investments, with values increasing by 20%, 30%, or even 50% or more in some years as new collectors enter the market with significant resources and compete for the tiny number of available examples. Which means if you're fortunate enough to own one of these coins, you're not just sitting on a fortune, you're sitting on a fortune that's growing. And let's talk about the broader implications of everything we've discussed today. The fact that modern American coins from the last 25 years, coins that many people are still using as pocket change, can be worth millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars completely transforms how we should think about the coins we handle every day. It means every quarter deserves a second look. It means that old jar of change in your closet could contain life-changing wealth. And it means that paying attention to details and educating yourself about what to look for could literally be the most profitable thing you ever do. The stories of the people who have found these valuable coins. The Pennsylvania collector who found the Idaho mule. The Richmond grandmother who found the Virginia error. The Boston teenager who found the Massachusetts mule. The Colorado construction worker who found the South Carolina perfect storm. These are regular people, not professional numismatists or wealthy collectors. Just regular folks who were paying attention and who were willing to take action when they found something unusual. And their stories prove that anyone can make these discoveries if they're knowledgeable and observant. So here's what I want you to do right now. Today, this moment, go through your quarters, every single one. Examine them carefully with a magnifying glass if you have one. Look for anything unusual or different or wrong. Check especially for 2016 D. Roosevelt quarters, 2007, P. Idaho quarters, 2000, P. Virginia quarters, 2000, P. Massachusetts quarters, and 2000, D. South Carolina quarters. And if you find anything that looks even slightly off or unusual, get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC because you might be holding a fortune in your hands and not even know it. Remember that these coins are out there. They do exist. They've been found by regular people just like you. And there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make a life-changing discovery that transforms your financial future forever. The world of rare coins is full of possibility, full of excitement, full of opportunity, and all it takes is knowledge, attention to detail, and the willingness to take action when you find something special. So go check those coins, educate yourself about what to look for, and never, ever assume that the change in your pocket is just ordinary money because, as we've proven today beyond any shadow of a doubt, sometimes that ordinary-looking quarter is actually an extraordinary treasure worth more than you ever dreamed possible. Thank you for watching this incredible journey through the most valuable state quarters in American history. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to CoinNexa USA for more amazing coin content, hit that notification bell so you never miss a video, and drop a comment below telling us whether you're going to check your quarters and what you hope to find, because who knows? Maybe you will be featured in our next video as the lucky person who discovered one of these legendary coins. Until next time, keep hunting, keep dreaming, and remember that fortune favors the observant.